catch me howling at the moon. Trying to catch me howling at the moon. Trying to catch me howling at the moon.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mondays Down South. You got Evan here, Cy, and Zach, as always, and we are very excited. As you've noticed, we are back on the quad box, which means we have a guest on this week. One of my really good buddies, Marty Cook from down here in Raleigh, is excited to join us today. We're happy to have him. Marty, I'll let you give you a minute if you want to introduce yourself, you know, where you're from, your background in sports, and, you know, the teams you follow, whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, guys, and I'm ready for a fun time on this podcast. So I've been hounding Evan a lot for trying to get me on here. So just a little bit about myself. I'm from Mississippi originally. Got into sports at a young age, played just about every sport you can think of, and got into college sports, you know, being in the SEC from Mississippi. Obviously, Ole Miss was my team, as sad as that is to say nowadays. But funny story about my professional teams, I'm actually a New York Jets fan, which is hard to say right now. Got into them back in the Rex Ryan days, saw them on Hard Knocks and just started following them. Never was a big Saints guy. Basketball, I would say I'm a New York Nets fan as well, or Brooklyn Nets, if you will. And then the Mets, of course. Other teams, you know, I just follow as much as I can. I'm a huge NFL fan. That's probably my biggest thing, fantasy football. I'm huge on that, and I got a big league that I'm in, and then Evan and I are in a league as well. But Evan and I met, and we hit it off big with sports. That's one of our main things that we talk about. And then he started this up, and I was just like pumped to talk about it with you guys and get on here and just, you know, shoot the bull and, you know, see what we can argue about.
I'm gonna jump in here because I'm over here fist bumping. Apparently, Evan has great taste in friends because this man said fantasy football. You had me at that. He said the Mets, which, you know, makes my heart melt, and then he said the Nets. And I am the biggest Kyrie Irving fan you'll ever meet. So we need more people like you on this show, sir. I'm excited to have you, Marty.
Hey, man, I've been around the Nets since the Jason Kidd days, so we can talk about that all we want.
And now you got Steve Nash. So what a world it is, right? Like I'm
telling you, man. I feel really old now because I remember watching him, you know, back in the day, and now he's coaching. It's crazy.
He's an assistant coach. That's crazy, man. It's crazy. Zebo, what do you got? Any quick thoughts? I guess you could start off the hot takes if you have them.
Yes, I will, Cy. I will start off on the hot take. And my hot take is the Bulls beat the Lakers. Or the Bulls. I'm thinking of Jimmy Butler and the Bulls. Like
That's a really hot take, Zach.
2021 season already. No, I think the Heat beat the Lakers handedly. I was looking at the matchups today. Jimmy Butler nullifies LeBron this entire series. AD experiences some trouble with Jay Crowder and Bam. And I think the Heat come out. They're just more disciplined. They want the championship more. I think they take the finals in 6 games or less. That's my hot take. And feel free to rip it apart, Cy. I know you wouldn't like that. We were talking about it before the podcast started. But go ahead and shoot. I'm very confident in that analysis.
I mean, I don't have to rip your takes apart, man. You do it every week to yourself. You come on here one week, you say the Clippers are going to win. They're like, why are we even talking about the Nuggets, blah, blah, blah. Clippers lose. You come in the next week and you say, oh, yeah, the Ravens are going to win by 2 scores against the Chiefs. They're down like 4 scores in the first half. Like, come on here and you make these takes, and I just sit back, smile, and then come back at you a few weeks later. So I'm just going to sit here and let the series play out the way that it does. With all that being said, though, I don't want to disrespect the Miami Heat because they deserve an incredible amount of credit. I hate to sound like Stephen A. Smith. Like, I don't want to disrespect this team, but I have this other team winning. But in all seriousness, that's kind of how I feel. I think the Heat are genuinely a great team. And when I say team, I mean a team. Like, they play together as a team. They don't just rely on 1 or 2 people to carry the load. They really distribute it. And they have, like, just such a great presence with Butler. And then all these young guys that aren't like are rookies but don't seem like rookies coming out here playing the way that they are. And the one person I pointed to in the Eastern Conference Finals that I just don't think gets talked about enough was Bam Adebayo. I said he was going to be the difference against the Celtics, and Game 7 or Game 6, that's what he did. And I think he's going to be a big difference in this series because the Lakers haven't faced a rim stopper this entire playoff, so that'll be a very different look for them. Defensively, I think they match up a lot better than all the teams the Lakers have played. Admittedly, like I'm going to pick LeBron James and Anthony Davis to win the series just because, I mean, LeBron is my personal GOAT, and you guys know how I feel about him. So I personally just think that the way that they're playing and the IQ that he has and his ability to adjust to different looks, I think they will win the series. But I would be surprised if the Heat don't take this, 6 games at least. Like I think a lot of people are coming out here just pretending like the Lakers are going to dominate the series, and not pretending, but assuming the Lakers are going to dominate the series. And as easy as it is to just pick the team with the 2 stars, like there's a reason the Heat beat the Bucks in 5 games. This isn't some team that's a fluke. They've come in here and beat every team handedly, and I mean both these teams are coming in with a 12-3 record, right? So I got the Lakers in 6, but I expect this to be a great series, and I'm so excited to watch it. It's teeing up in 20 minutes. I'll kick it over to Marty. What you got? Any takes, man?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been difficult, trying to gauge how it's going to, play out with the bubble and everything, even with the beginning of the playoffs. I see LeBron in LeBron form, and it's hard to fight against that, man. He's been doing it for so long, and it's just become so naturally to him. But, seeing people like Tyler Hero, and you mentioned Bam, I mean, those guys are taking it to another level right now. I think I'm going to have to stick with what I thought at the beginning, and I think Davis and LeBron get it done. I think they're going to be tough to beat. I think the experience alone is enough to take it. So I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah, and going off that, I kind of think to that point, it's like when it comes down to it, LeBron's going to do whatever it takes to get it done. It's like you look at in the last series, you complain about Giannis not covering the best player on the other team, but at the end of the last series when it needed to happen, LeBron was like, all right, I'm shutting down Jamal Murray. I'm just going to do it. And at the end of the game, I'm going to go just score the last 9 points of the game. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And I think that, it'll come down to 6. I'm going to go Lakers in 6, but I think it's a great series. Love what the Heat have done, but I think the LeBron factor, I think, is just going to be too much. Yeah, gotcha. Marty, what's your hot take? I think you're excited about something. I don't know if it's that or an NFL prediction, but
yeah. So I am gonna push to another sport. I hope that's okay. As important as the finals are in the NBA, I would like to mention something about football, and this is going to be a big one. I feel like I think Mullins is going to unseat Jimmy G in San Francisco.
Wow.
Nick Mullins.
Bold one.
Now, call me a homer if you want. I did go to Southern Miss, but Nick Mullins has produced significantly, even last year when he came in under the Jimmy G injury. He came in, took over that offense. He showed that he was a leader. He showed that he could produce the numbers. He's broken all of Brett Favre's records at USM. The guy's, showed that he's NFL ready, and I think Jimmy G's kind of had a tough last season, and then he's coming in not looking too good. His receivers are depleted. I'll give him that. But with George Kittle out, and then you got Deebo Samuel on IR, it's a big deal. But if Nick Mullins produces and he does well with the talent that he has on that roster, I can see him trying to start Nick Mullins for the remainder of the year if he has a couple of good games under him.
I like that one. That is a bold one.
I love that hot take.
Cy?
That's awesome.
I'm going to take my hot take to, again, rip on Zach for another hot take that he made because I was very excited to bring this up, so I figured I would save this segment for that. Zach and I are texting about college football before the SEC kicked off play. Marty, I'm also a huge SEC guy. I went to University of South Carolina, so I'm Gamecocks all the way. But Zach comes on here and we're talking football, and I'm talking about how much of a joke the Big 12 is, right? Like I'm talking about how, and keep in mind this is before they played this weekend. Like I'm talking before Oklahoma lost and before Texas basically should have lost to Texas Tech until Texas Tech wrapped, sealed, and delivered that game for Christmas to Texas. I was talking to Zach about this, and Zach comes out and he goes, UT is going to be a college playoff team. And I'm sure there is no bias from the fact that he just spent the last couple of years living in Austin and moved back.
No bias whatsoever.
And I'm sure there's no bias in the fact that he knows his Hokies aren't going to be a college playoff team, so he defers to his new Austin-based team. But he says this, and I swear Zach has this innate ability to say things and then have things go to absolute crap immediately after. Because I kid you not, he says this, and then 2 hours later, Oklahoma loses and Texas is down 3 scores. They've let up over 50 points. And admittedly, I went out and started calling that game over, and Texas ended up coming back and winning because Texas Tech just made a ton of terrible decisions, admittedly. But, I mean, it just cracked me up, and I had to point it out on the podcast because I will be bringing this up every week that Texas plays. I want to point to the fact that Zach said they're going to be a college playoff team. And if they are, the only reason they'll be a college playoff team is because the Big 12 is the biggest joke of a conference. I used to think it was the ACC outside of Clemson, but it's the Big 12. That's I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off that side, I'm just waiting for one of these outrageous claims to hit, and then I'm going to be like, just dancing around on the podcast.
So my hot take brings it back to the NFL. Maybe an overreaction in Monday Night Football, but I guess that's what a hot take is, right? In some cases, an overreaction. So I'm going to say Lamar Jackson is not a top 5 NFL quarterback. I don't think he is. I think it's one of those things, like when you're watching NFL games nowadays, you're doing red zone or you're at a bar where you got a million different games going on. So I can't remember the last time I've actually sat down, watched an entire game of him play. And obviously this was a bad one to see if you're trying to evaluate him, but the passing just is not there still. I mean, so many inaccurate balls last night. They could have easily, the Chiefs gave them every opportunity to stay in that game, and they kind of did. But if Lamar just makes a few more throws here and there, like that's a different ball game. And I think you can adjust your defense schematically for the running and keep him. You can only do so much in terms of keeping him under wraps, but he's got to get better passing. And right now he can't be in the top 5 if he's going to be that inaccurate and that bad with his arm. So
I love that.
I actually, so here's the thing. If you're asking me who the top 5 most talented players are at the quarterback position, then Lamar Jackson is on that list for me. If you're asking me who the top 5 legitimate quarterbacks are, I don't know if Lamar Jackson makes that list for me. That's what I've always said, though, right? Because even last year, like when he did win the MVP, it wasn't, his arm was solid. He was better with his arm than I ever gave him credit for. Like Evan knows this. Like, but before last season said I didn't think the Ravens were going to be that great because I didn't expect Lamar to develop any more than he had the previous season, and at least in terms of his arm talent, because he was never like a super accurate guy. Like at least consistently. And last year he kind of proved me wrong in that sense. But in order for him to be elite, I think he needs to take that next step in passing because teams are getting better at defending him running, and especially when you play a team like the Chiefs that can put up points passing a lot against your defense, a defense that usually isn't susceptible to giving up a lot of points. You need a guy that can come out there and do the same thing. It was the same recipe that the Tennessee Titans used against them last year when they beat them in the playoffs, and the Ravens were supposed to be in the AFC Championship. So I agree with you, Evan. I also think part of this is because there's other quarterbacks that have been slept on over the past season that I've been pointing to, like, for example, Aaron Rodgers, who people were just kind of threw out the back door, and he's back being the bad man that he is, to quote the infamous Stephen A. Smith. I keep bringing up Stephen A. for whatever reason. But, like, for things like that, make it a little bit easier to say that. But, I'm kind of with you there. I don't know that if I consider him like a legitimate top 5 quarterback just yet. I understand that he's an MVP player. I don't want to disrespect him. I still think he's very capable of winning football games, but I don't think he's as good. I think there are 5 quarterbacks that I could probably think of that would, as a true quarterback, present a better argument.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I guess otherwise we can just kind of pivot right into the NFL. Maybe start with that game. Any other takes on that game overall, Marty? You want to kick it off?
As far as Monday night?
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I can say is that Patrick Mahomes has proven that he is the Hall of Fame quarterback we all know him to be. The man is amazing. The guy's on another level, and he's playing like he's been in the league for 10 years. He's good on his feet. He's perfected the no-look pass, which I think the only person that could compare to him is maybe Aaron Rodgers as far as that goes. His offensive weapons are just unstoppable. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, who's, iffy. But then you got, when Travis Kelce's out there and he's hot, then you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire to add in. Mecole Hardman, he's got speed. He's got everything you could ask for. And then the one guy you would never think to score a touchdown, the old fullback Sherman. Of course, he's going to get in the end zone. But, he's got it everywhere. And then, the defense and Andy Reid, he's proven time and time again that he's one of the best coaches of all time. And I think these guys are going to be really hard to stop. And as far as Baltimore goes, Baltimore is Baltimore. They will win games. Not to say Lamar Jackson is going to go through his struggles. I think, once him and Marquise Goodwin Marquise Brown get on the same page, they're going to do well. But I still think Lamar's going to, he might taper back from last year. I don't think he's going to have as good of a year. And I don't think he will finish top 5, but I do think he will have a good season. I think the Ravens are going to, keep some W's going. I think their schedule, I can't remember exactly who they have next week, but I think they're going to
Washington.
push hard. Yeah, so that's a dub right there. No offense.
Bad timing. Bad timing for that one.
Yeah, they're gonna be pretty pissed off coming into this next game. So I think we see a lot out of J.K. Dobbins too. I think he's the future back there.
Yeah. Yo, Marty, you kind of set me up for the perfect stat of the weekend. This was my favorite stat ever. So, for anyone that watched the game or didn't see it, Eric Fisher, the left tackle for the Chiefs, caught a touchdown this weekend. And there was a stat that came out that said that Eric Fisher has the same amount of touchdowns as the entire Eagles receiving staff this season so far. One of the funniest stats I've ever heard. And we're talking
we all thought.
3 weeks into the NFL season, one Eagles receiver has caught a touchdown. That is absurd. I think we can definitely touch on that for a sec. But let me ask you guys a question off the Monday night, because why not put focus on the team that clearly is the best team in the NFL right now, at least in my opinion? What team do you think in the AFC could pose any sort of potential threat to beating the Chiefs and representing the AFC in the Super Bowl this year? Do you guys have a team you can think of off the top of your head, or a team that you could even make that argument for at the moment? Because I'm not just talking about the Chiefs offense. I'm talking about the fact that their defense is now playing well. If you think of week 2 when they played the Chargers almost beat them, but the defense still held the Chargers under 20 points, whereas the Chargers defense was who had the recipe for the Chiefs offense. I'm curious to see if you guys can think of a team or have a team that you could argue to beat the Chiefs this year in the AFC.
Yeah. Call me crazy, and it ties in perfectly with this weekend. I think it's hard to pick anyone. If there is one team, it might be the Patriots for me.
Yeah.
Just because the one thing I will say, the Chargers don't have enough to beat them, but the Chargers defensively, not just this year, but even last year, if I'm not mistaken, have done a really good job in slowing down that offense. And obviously they almost beat them this year thanks to the defense. So, and if there's one team that can put the coaching spin on it, figure out a game plan to stop Mahomes, and then you have Cam back there running with his legs. I don't think they can. I don't think there's enough there, especially with how many guys they had opt out. But if there was one team that, maybe that would maybe be my pick.
I like that, but I think there's a better team in the AFC East that might have an opportunity of doing it, and I think the Bills have a solid chance. Bills looked really good. Josh Allen, as hard as it is for me to say this, is doing a profound job of running that offense, and he's probably had more rushing yards than any Jets running back since the start of the season. So that's not saying much, but still, their defense is obviously one of the top ones in the NFL, and if they can keep that train rolling, I don't think they would have a problem, competing at least. Not to say that they would for sure beat them, but I definitely think it'd be a good game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a different team. I think this is a great question, Cy. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans, and the reason why I think the Titans is because of the even split between the run and pass. They are true professionals when it comes to clock management, and they will run the ball with Derrick Henry. They will shave minutes off that clock. And I think the less opportunities that Kansas City has to score due to time constraints, the better. They also have young, quick corners. They just drafted Christian Fulton out of LSU, who's been amazing for them so far. I also like the fast line and the fast linebackers, and Vic Beasley at outside linebacker. They got Jadeveon in free agency, so they could definitely cause an issue to just rushing 4 or 5, definitely getting to Patrick Mahomes and maybe forcing the ball a little bit prematurely. But yeah, I think just because of clock management, Ryan Tannehill's actually been playing pretty well. He threw 4 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. I think the good run balance could throw Kansas City off, especially if they didn't convert on some of those plays. So that's mine.
I think
that's a good one, Zach.
I think that's a really good one, Zach. I actually like all three of y'all's because I think the recipe that I think we all seem to think this is the way I look at it is O-line and D-line. If you could beat them on the line, that's how you beat Kansas City, in my opinion, just because the recipe that we've seen over the last year and a half of the only teams that have beaten them have been the ones that will get to Patrick Mahomes quickly by beating their offensive line with the pass rush and will run the ball down their throats and control the clock and just keep them off the field and never let them get in that rhythm of just throwing those ridiculous touchdowns. I mean, that's almost how the 49ers beat them in the Super Bowl, right? So outside of the teams that you mentioned, I was going to say the Titans, and actually, this is going to sound like total homer bias, but I'm throwing my Colts out there just because we beat them on the road last year, and we have the D-line and the O-line to put that out there. But the one other team that I really don't want to sleep on is the Pittsburgh Steelers. If James Conner stays healthy with that defense that they have, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could really, matchup-wise, could really match up really well against those Chiefs over like maybe any of the teams we listed, given how well they've been playing. And if you can get Big Ben to put up some points with the receiving core, like I definitely think the Steelers could hold their own. That defense is nasty. So every single bit. Yep.
Zach, you wanna give us a game? What were one of your biggest takes?
You want to talk about Falcons, Zach? Are you sure you don't want to talk about?
I think we might need to lay off Zach and the Falcons
I
here.
do not want to talk about the Falcons because you mentioned the Eagles, which is just a joke. And the fact that the Bengals and the Eagles had a draw last week and they both have better records than the Falcons right now, it says things for itself. So I'm going to focus on a different game. Now, we can stay in the NFC South, a good little compromise. But how about Green Bay and New Orleans?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that game was pretty solid. It came down to the wire. I was a little disappointed with the play calling in New Orleans. I'm not sure if you guys watched that game, but Drew Brees was not throwing. He was kind of focused on a lot of checkdowns, more so than we've ever seen before. Now, Alvin Kamara is the epitome of an 80 reception back per season, but he didn't really throw down the field that much. I was a little concerned about utilization, but I think the Green Bay played their lights out. Aaron Jones, the Aaron brothers, right? So you got Aaron Jones, you got Aaron Rodgers. They were lighting it up the entire game. It just goes to show you how good Green Bay is this year. Definitely something I slept on for sure. But what do you guys think of the game, and what do you guys think moves forward with the Saints season? I mean, they're now kind of threatened the NFC spot that many people thought they were going to win. So what are your thoughts?
Y'all want to go first?
Evan, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that game wasn't too big of a surprise to me. I thouot the Packers would win, especially without Mike Thomas. I said last week, I think the Saints and especially Drew Brees have slipped. I think we figured after watching the first couple games, the Packers are going to be really, really tough this year. That game solidified that because you look at them without Devontae Adams, so dealing with their 2 and 3 receivers there as well. So continue to be impressed by Green Bay. I think the Saints will be thrilled to welcome, hopefully this week, Michael Thomas back into the fold and mix him in with Kamara, who's just been ridiculous. But not too much of a surprise on my end.
I'll follow Evan up by saying I think it's going to be maybe a hot take if I say that it's almost time for Drew Brees to hang up the cleats, man. I think he's good. I think he's one of the greats, but I think showing that if he doesn't have Mike Thomas out there, he struggles a little bit. You were talking about the checkdowns earlier. It was getting a little bit, easy to read, easy to figure out that he was going to go that way. Luckily Alvin Kamara, he's pretty good at football. I think he's shown that he's if anybody could take that number 1 pick for Christian McCaffrey back, I think they would in fantasy. But I think you saw the Saints struggling, and I think it had a lot to do with COVID again. I think not having a packed out Superdome where they're not hearing those hard counts by Aaron Rodgers, who's the master. They obviously got them at the end there. But we'll see. I mean, I think the Packers are very good. I think Aaron Rodgers is a little hot from that Jordan Love pickup in the draft. And I think he's showing it.
Yeah, so I think the Packers, like you guys all said, are solid. They're going to be solid all season. They're going to be NFC contenders and Super Bowl contenders. I strongly believe that, assuming everyone stays healthy, knocking on wood. But Rodgers is playing great. He's playing like the MVP caliber player that he is. Like Zach said, Jones is great, and their defense has been playing definitely well enough to allow that offense to win them some games. So Not worried about the Packers, but to be honest with you guys, I'm also not worried about the Saints. I actually think like we're spending a lot of time focusing on Drew Brees and the offense, but in reality, it's not like the offense doesn't score enough points to win. The main point here being their defense didn't show up this past week and the week before, and I legitimately believe their defense will be better. I think they have too many good players not to figure it out. And also, one thing I'll point out about the Saints, and I think every single season I end up having this conversation about the Saints over the last couple of years as Drew Brees has gotten older. Those first 3 to 4 games, the Saints always start off with some sort of a losing record or like a 500 record. And everybody's talking, and we're always like, oh, is this the year Drew Brees is falling off? Is this the year the Saints are going to struggle? Is this the year the Saints aren't going to figure it out? And every single one of those seasons, they make the adjustments with coaching because they have a great coaching staff. Their defense starts playing better. They stop getting so tricky on offense, which is one of the big problems. Like Peyton was just making all sorts of crazy play calls that they, like Ab said it perfectly. He's like, like they're trying too hard to get guys like Taysom Hill involved because they're pressing with guys like Michael Thomas out, and not to mention they lost Jared Cook in the first half of that game, who's been one of Drew Brees' like favorite targets. So they'll figure it out. Like they got a good team, and I don't think Drew Brees is like, as amazing as he was, like, back in his prime. But I don't think Drew Brees is that much different than the guy who threw for, the second or third most touchdowns last season, even though he was hurt. Like, he's still got the ability to do it. He doesn't have to chuck the ball like 50, 60 yards down the field for them to win. They have the weapons to do it. So I think the Saints will be fine. I don't want to like overreact. Ultimately, they managed to stay in the game for the most part against a really good Packers team. And I think, with Michael Thomas back, that offense is completely different. I think their defense gets better. And they need to stop committing so many penalties. And that stuff is just coaching. That's not like that's just errors, not inability to win. So I think the Saints will be fine personally. I'm gonna kick it over to another NFC team because I think we've talked plenty about the AFC. So let's talk about one more NFC team before we move into predictions. Seahawks, guys. Russell Wilson. Does this man finally get an MVP? Like, at what point? What does he need to do? He deserves a dang MVP, man. He comes out every single season and shows the world how damn good he is. I admittedly was one of the first, like when he first came into the league, I'd always be like, oh, he's lucky. He's on a Seahawks team. All he has to do is game manage. But Wilson has just turned into a true top-tier guy, and those Seahawks are going out every single week and beating teams. They lose Chris Carson. They still beat the Cowboys. Like, the Seahawks look good. Do you guys think they're a legitimate Super Bowl threat? Do you think Wilson goes out and wins MVP this year? What do you think of the Seahawks?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're top of the NFC for me right now. Them in Green Bay. I mean, again, like we talked about last week, like let Russ cook. He certainly has been. I mean, he's just been out there dealing. I will say, I mean, what did the final end up being? It beat him by, it was pretty close by the end, if I'm not mistaken. You mentioned, touchdown game. You mentioned Carson, but he went out right at the end. Like, they didn't lose much Carson time. I wasn't like blown away from the Seahawks with this game, but offensively, I mean, Russ keeps doing his thing. And I think not only are they the favorites in the NFC, but, he's probably, and again, Packers with Rodgers, but he's probably the favorite for the MVP right now.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's pretty much all I have. I like the Seahawks, but I love the Packers, so we'll have to see what unfolds. But I definitely think Russell has established himself as the clear-cut favorite. He had 5 touchdowns. He should have had 6. A little slip up by DK, thinking he was in the end zone, doing a little showboating. I knew it was going to happen at some point during this season, but unfortunately it had to happen to DK first. I think that'll get cleaned up real quick with a couple of suicides this week. But but I think Russ has definitely established himself, like I said earlier. But the key is this has happened previously. Russ has definitely dominated at the start of the season, and he's kind of tinkered back a little bit as other players have progressed throughout the season. So he's kind of lost the MVP, not by playing bad, but by leveling out standard deviation. So can he keep up these performances and stay consistent? And I think he's a shoo-in.
All right, yeah. So obviously, for those that listened last week, we started a new segment with doing. Last week, we actually guessed what we thought the spreads would be. Not sure if we'll do that this week. We might just make game picks, but we did go through all the games, make game picks last week, so we'll continue with that trend. Overall, and just some basic stats this week, I look forward to diving into some of the more in-depth stats as we look at the actual money lines, like how much would we have made if we actually bet on these picks, that kind of stuff. But just high level, Cy and I went 9 for 14. because Zach, we edited out 2 of the games, so I didn't know who we picked. But so there's only 14.
Had to keep it under an hour.
And one of them was an upset, so I think we probably got it wrong. But yeah, so Cy and I were 9 of 14. Zach was 8 of 14. We each had a couple good upset picks in there, but overall, that's probably kind of chalk. I bet that's probably the amount of favorites that won. So I'm not gonna lie, we didn't add a ton of value, but solid across the board.
We're shooting over 50%.
But you got to think, if you could just pick favorites, you're probably getting about 75%.
I mean, we gotta get a little bit of credit here. I think we pulled off a couple of those upsets. We were pretty close with the Bengals. That's a good example. I mean, Zach.
Detroit. We had
the
2 Detroit
Dolphins.
pickers.
Yeah, we did pick Detroit. Now we had a couple in there. We got to give her, pat our shoulders a little bit, but yeah, we definitely missed on some right there. So hopefully we keep it going along. Zach, let's get this segment started, man. I'm excited to have Marty make some picks here too. So.
All right, fellas. So we're not doing any spread. We're just doing pick 'em, like Ev was saying earlier. So let's go ahead and start Thursday night game. We got Denver going to Marty's New York Jets. Who wins this game?
Give us the spread also. We won't pick the spread, but just
tell us how much they win.
That works. All right, so the spread is New York by 1.5. We'll kick it up to Marty. Marty, who do you think is going to win this game here?
Oh man. I think Denver's going to take it home. As hard as it is for me to say as a New York Jet, this is just an atrocity of an NFL team. And if they don't get anything fixed pretty soon, it's going to be bad for a while. Poor Sam Darnold, man. That's all I can say about that. Denver Broncos takes it home.
Go ahead, E.
All right. I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback, which is the Jets. Obviously, the Broncos are on a quarterback number 3. Honorable mention, Mark Rippon, former Washington football team, Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP. His son will be starting out of Boise State. So I'm going to actually take the Jets here with the team with the better quarterback.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the Jets by field goal this week. I think this is the week they get their one win this season, maybe, because this is the best possible scenario. Marty, you might disagree. I'm taking the Jets by 3. So listen, don't want to spend too much time analyzing an awful matchup. So let's just move forward.
Wow, I was going to say the one New York Jets fan here is the one that doesn't pick them, because I'm going New York too. I think they sneak out a win. Just
been getting my hopes up for a long time, boys. Just welcome to the club. That's all I can say.
All right, so next game here, we're kicking it over to our Sunday 1:00 games. We have Cy's Indianapolis Colts at the Chicago Bears. With cadence here, I'll start with you, Marty. Who do you think is going to win this matchup? The spread is 2.5 to Indianapolis.
Indianapolis is going to take this one home, man. Nick Foles, he's going to be starting under center. I think obviously he's already got some chemistry with Allen Robinson, but I think Phillip Rivers, he has a awful good chance of actually throwing one of those deep balls to one of his own players, and I think T.Y. Hilton's going to pick up a TD.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts as well. This is a tough one, but I feel like people are excited about Foles, and I don't know why. So I'm going to take Foles.
I'll take Indy by a field goal, but honestly, I don't think this is going to be an easy game, because I just think that the Bears have such a great defense, and I think Nick Foles is like the perfect guy for Matt Nagy to just coach him into not trying to do too much and just make the throws that are there, and he clearly showed it in the second half. So I got the Colts by a field goal. Like, I hate to be too obvious with the spread, but I really think this is a close game, and it wouldn't shock me if I was wrong. So got the Colts by a field goal.
I'm going to go ahead and say I think the Bears win by a field goal, but to Sai's point, I think this is a close game. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think lots of field goals. I can see like a 19-16 performance here going Chicago's way. But moving on to our next game here, we have the 1-2 Jacksonville Jaguars playing in Cincinnati against the Bengals. Right now, the spread is leaning 3 to Cincinnati. So, Marty, who do you think takes this home?
I'm going Jags here. I think Jaguars go into Cincinnati a little heated after that loss to the Miami Dolphins, and I think Gardner Minshew gets on point with DJ Chark if he's healthy. If not, he's got James Robinson, who another hot take of mine. I think he's going to end up finishing top 10 in RB scoring. So I think the guy's hot. I think he's good, and I think Jaguars are going to take it home.
Love it. I'm going Bengals here. Joe Burrow gets his first win. I think this is one of the highest scoring games on the slate. And I've got Burrow by a touchdown.
I'm gonna go with a hotter take. I think James Robinson finishes as a top 7 RB in scoring. With all the injuries we've seen this year, like why would I not pick James Robinson? He gets the opportunities. He's getting the goal line carries. He's getting the receptions. I got James Robinson as top 7, and I'm also picking the Jaguars by a field goal because I think they bounce back after last week. I really want to see Burrow get a win because that man's doing everything he can, but I just like the Jaguars a little bit more in this one, so I'm taking the Jags, especially if Chark's healthy.
Yeah, I got the Jags too. I think the Jags sneak out a field goal. I know I see them winning on the road. I love the Minshew media hype. Let's keep it rolling. We got Cleveland playing in Dallas. So the Browns playing against the Cowboys. Cowboys are home, and right now the spread is 4.5. It's a little interesting matchup here. Marty, what do you got in this one?
I'm going to have to stick with the Cowboys in this one. I think Browns are going to brown, and I think they really got to get on point with their receiving. I think Baker Mayfield is not looking like top pick in the draft. I think their run game is what they're relying on, and I think as hard as it is for me to say, I think Mike McCarthy is going to be able to prepare for that. So I think they Cowboys take it.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Which team's going to find a way to lose because they both, tend to. So I'll take the Cowboys, and I don't feel happy about it, but I'll take the Cowboys.
I'm taking the Browns by a field goal. I think they've found a good recipe with their two-headed monster. I think this is one of those games where if the Cowboys overcommit to the run, we'll actually see Odell and that receiving core ball out a little bit because I think they've gotten a little bit more in rhythm as far as like making the plays they need to make to advance their offense while not trying to do too much. I think the Browns will go into Dallas and get a dub this week on a 3-point victory. I think it'll be close, but I got the Browns.
I tend to side with Cy here. I think the Browns are to come out. I think the Cowboys almost wait to go down in games before the spark hits them and they have to start coming back and climbing their way back into it. I think Cleveland dominates from the start. And if Jarvis Landry is listening to this, please, record more than 40 yards this week. That would be very appreciated as a fantasy owner. But moving on to the next game here, we have New Orleans, 1-2 New Orleans playing at the Detroit Lions, another 1-2 team. Marty, who you got?
At the Detroit Lions, I am actually going to take the Detroit Lions. I think Matthew Stafford and Kenny Galladay are going to connect. I think Adrian Peterson is going to show us something here, and maybe DeAndre Swift actually gets into the end zone and catches a ball. I like Detroit at home. I think it's going to be kind of a shootout. I don't know why, but I just feel like Matt Stafford's going to be hurling a lot of them, and I think they're going to take it.
Yeah, for some reason I love picking Detroit in upsets. I've done it. This would be 3 straight weeks in a row. I finally got it last week, and since I got it last week, as much as I want to do it again, I'll pick the Saints because just because.
If Michael Thomas is healthy, I'm going Saints. I legitimately believe that this is going to be one of those where they come out. If Thomas is healthy, they come out and they say, time for us to show the world that we're still one of the best NFC teams, and I think their defense bounces back, and I think they win this game. If Thomas isn't healthy, maybe that's a different story, but if Thomas is healthy, Saints.
Yeah, Saints roll. I forgot to mention the spread on this one. It's 4 going to New Orleans. I think the Saints cover that handedly. So next game here we have Seattle playing 3-0 Seattle playing at Miami against the Dolphins. Dolphins are 1-2, and the spread is leaning Seattle's direction, 6.5. Marty, back to you.
As crazy as it sounds, I think this is also going to be another shootout because I think Ryan Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker could connect a good bit. I think Seattle's going to take it. Seattle, like we talked about earlier, they're just hot, and it's going to be hard for them to beat them. If they got that defense on point, they're not going to stand a chance. So I got a high scoring game, and I got the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I think tough trap game, especially for Seattle going across the country, but I'll take Seattle. Close though.
If Chris Carson and Jamal Adams are out, this game's going to be closer than we think. If they play, I think Seattle wins by multiple scores. Either way, I'm taking Seattle.
I'm going with Miami. I'm going with Miami here. I think this is a trap game.
Love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think Ryan Fitzmagic is going to come out, and they got nothing to lose at this point. They're 1-2. They're playing at home. They're playing against an undefeated team. I think they come out super motivated, ready to go, and I think they're going to air it out.
You're the
And
beard.
Jamal Adams potentially out, right? So we'll see what happens. So I got Miami in this game. So we have a couple 1 o'clock games here. We have the Los Angeles Chargers 1-2 playing at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay's favored 7 points. Marty, who do you got in this matchup?
I like Justin Herbert a lot, and I think he's found some chemistry with old Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler is looking like Austin Eckler from days gone, and I think the Chargers are going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tom Brady without Chris Godwin is going to be difficult for him, and Leonard Fournette's questionable as well. If he's just got Ronald Jones going back, I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to score. And Tom Brady's just, I don't know, man. I'm picking the Chargers.
This is a tough one. I'm surprised the spread's this big. I'll take Tampa Bay by a field goal, though. Tough going across the country. Going across the country is always tough.
I think Marty made a really good point about Chris Godwin being out, because I think that's the number one target for Brady. Whether it's with all the other weapons there are, like Godwin's that guy that could run across the middle of the field with Brady's arm strength declining. That's had his back. I think with Godwin being out, I'm going to take the Chargers to win by a field goal. I will say I'm super bummed the Chargers lost Derwin James at the beginning of the season, because if they had Derwin James, that team can make some even more noise. Like Herbert is showing up as a rookie. That offense is really nice around them with the way they're playing. Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers by field goal.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough matchup, because the Chargers, they find themselves playing close games. Whatever Chargers game is on, it's a 7-point game at all times. I think the difference maker here, though, is the Chargers did drop one to the Panthers last week. Tampa Bay comfortably beat Carolina, so I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in this one. I think they cover the spread. I think they actually win by more than 7. So moving over here to an East Coast game, Battle of the Beltway, we have the Baltimore Ravens playing at Washington. Ravens are 2-1, Washington's 1-2, and the spread is 12 for Baltimore. So, Marty, are you leaning with the Ravens here? Or are you going with the Washington football team?
Sorry, Ev. I think Ravens are going to come and do business. I think they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder after this past week with Kansas City, and I think they're going to wholeheartedly put it on the Washington football team, and they'll be who we thought they were.
Yeah, no Chase Young, probably. No Matt Ioannidis. He's done for the season. It's 20-30 point win for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 scores. I was thinking like 17-point win for the Ravens. I think their defense is also just going to dismantle that Redskins offense this week after the Chiefs put it on them.
Football team.
Sorry, my fault.
Gosh, Cy,
we will always
man.
correct on this pod.
Come on, man.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Right,
I got Ravens as well. Next game here, we have the Arizona Cardinals, 2-1, playing at the Carolina Panthers. Right now, spread's 3.5 Arizona's way. That's an interesting spread. Marty, you think the Cardinals take this one, or you think the Panthers get another win?
Probably going to get looked at funny for this, but I have a hot take that Evan likes to disagree with a lot. I think Kyler Murray's not who we think he is. I think the Panthers are actually going to come out and do some damage to the Cardinals. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to show up. I think he's going to put it on Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's going to have a good game. I think the Panthers are going to take this one.
I've got Cardinals. I actually do think pump the brakes on Kyler. I've been saying on this before. I'm not as anti-Kyler as you are. I would give you that. But, yeah, I'm going to go Cardinals here. Get off the schneid after last week.
Yeah, I get annoyed with all the flashiness that Kyler gets credit for. He threw 3 picks last week, and all people want to talk about is a juke move. Like, come on, man. He had a bad game, and that's why Detroit won that game. But I will say the Cardinals, I think, will win this one only because I have no faith in that Carolina defense right now. And that's the only reason I picked the Cardinals. But I expect this to be a really close game, and I expect DJ Moore and Anderson and all those guys on the Panthers to ball out. So I think it's going to be a good fantasy week for most of those players. And please, Kenyon Drake, do something. Please, let me rephrase that. Please, Kingsbury, learn how to run a damn football. Like, I don't even understand what is wrong with you. Give Kenny Drake the damn football. He's a beast. All right, continue.
For some reason, I'm getting some mojo here from Marty. Do you have Robbie Anderson on your fantasy team? Because you just mentioned that Robbie Anderson is going to ball out. It sounds more like a hope than a fact. But I'm going to go with Arizona in this one. And to size point, Cliff, if you're listening to this, just run your boy Kenyon Drake on the 1 yard line. No need to do some fancy schmancy stuff with Kyler Murray. Next game here, we have the Minnesota Vikings playing at the Houston Texans. Right now, spread is Houston by 4.5. So, Marty, my question to you is, which team gets their first win of the season?
Houston Texans. Minnesota's defense looks absolutely awful. I mean, they can't compete. And then, Kirk Cousins is not the guy you want to pay money to, in my opinion, to throw the football for you because, geez Louise. But with that being said, I think Justin Jefferson, he's truly trying to show up, and I think he's going to make his way out. I just don't think this is going to be the week to do it. I think the Texans take it, and I think we see a big game out of Deshaun.
Yeah, agreed. Tough to win after not being able to practice, too. So, Houston.
I think Dalvin Cook was the best looking player in the NFL this weekend in terms of the way that he ran the football when they handed it to him. Kamara was maybe the better receiver, but if you're talking the in-between tackles runner this week, I watched that entire Minnesota game and Dalvin balled out. Justin Jefferson balled out. Thielen will get better. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually think the Houston Texans are probably going to start off 0-4 because I really think Minnesota had Tennessee beat. They admittedly blew it at the very end there, but I think they're going to come out and we're talking about a team that went into the playoffs last year and beat Drew Brees and the Saints. So I think Minnesota also has a chance to win this game, even if their defense is struggling, because I don't think the Texans defense has been that much better, to be honest. So I got Minnesota in this one by a very close game, though. Very close game.
Yeah, I got Minnesota as well. This is actually a bet-on game, possibly. I mean, the spread is 4.5 going Houston's way. I might take a closer look here. I mean, I think Minnesota is going to handily win this game. I think they have the running game. I think Kirk bounces back a little bit from some of his previous performances. And, one thing is neither of these teams have credible defenses, in my opinion. We'll see which team shows up. But moving on to the next game, I guess the last 105 game, we have the Steelers at the Titans. That is postponed, so we'll move on to our 4 o'clock games here. We have the New York Giants playing at the Los Angeles Rams. Marty, you see a Rams victory here?
I do see a Rams victory here. I don't know, how I feel about it, but I mean, the Giants, man, I think you can pretty much punt on all of them right now, especially with Saquon going down. I mean, they brought in Devontae Freeman, but I mean, it just didn't look good in that backfield. And Daniel Jones is obviously struggling right now. I think maybe the only one that I could look at is maybe Evan Ingram getting in the end zone, but that's a risky play. I'm going to take the Rams, and I think they're going to put it on them pretty good.
Yeah, Rams big.
Rams by like 3 scores.
Yep, same here. So moving on to a much more interesting matchup is the New England Patriots 2-1 playing at the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Right now, Kansas City is favored by 7. Interesting game here, Marty. Who you got in this matchup?
I think Andy Reid has proven time and again that he can compete with Bill Belichick, and I think he's not going to make that any different this week. I think he's going to take it home. Granted, you got Stephon Gilmore, and you got a good defense there in the Patriots. I think they're going to have a hard time slowing down that, 6-headed monster that the Kansas City Chiefs have, and then Patrick Mahomes is going to Patrick Mahomes. So I think they're going to take it home.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Patriots here, coming off a short week for Kansas City. And I think I've picked all favorites to this point, which is concerning, but I'll pick the Chiefs.
I see this going one of two ways. Either I see the Patriots winning or I see the Chiefs winning by like a huge amount. For some reason, I don't see that like Chiefs winning by a touchdown. I either see them winning by like two or 3 touchdowns, or I see the Patriots winning in a close game just because of that Bill Belichick pedigree that he has. I'm going to lean, you know what? I'm throwing it out there. I think the Patriots win this game, man. I'm thinking Bill Belichick goes out there and takes a little recipe from the Chargers and does it a little bit better. Do I think the Patriots are better than the Chiefs? No, I think the Chiefs are still the favorite team in the AFC, but I think if there's one coach to go out there and slow them down a little bit, it's going to be Bill Belichick, and I'm actually going to take the Patriots this week, which I don't want to happen, but I'm going to do it.
It's so tough. If this was in Foxborough, I'd actually take New England as well, just because of the scheme that I just know Bill Belichick is drawing up something good. But I did watch the Chiefs offensive play calling specifically. It was unbelievable, the plays they were running. They would line up 4 players on one side of the field. They would run a slip screen to the other side. And then, oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, who's in a 3-point stance, just swings out down the middle of the field wide open. I mean, you never know where the ball is going with these guys. So because it is an Arrowhead, I'm going to go with the Chiefs, but I think it's going to be close. I could see that being a one-possession game for sure. So moving on to the next game here.
Hey, Zach, before we go to the next one, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah, what's up?
Rex Burke had 3 fantasy points this week. I'm calling it.
Probably.
Fair enough. I like that. I like that bold prediction there. So I'm going to go with the next matchup here is Buffalo Bills at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Buffalo Bills are still favored 3 points in the Death Star. Marty, you think the Raiders have it in them? They get another win and boost them to 3-1, or you think the Bills remain undefeated?
It all depends on what John Gruden has cooked up, and if he has the defense cooked up where, Jonathan Abrams, man, he's been on fire back there for him. I think Josh Allen is going to have a harder time running the ball if he tries to, but I think I see a big game out of Devin Singletary, so I am going to take the Bills in this one.
I'm gonna. The Bills won't go undefeated, and I need to pick an underdog, so I'll take the Raiders.
I keep going. I feel like I'm picking a lot of underdogs this week, and you know what? I don't care what my record shows. I'm gonna keep picking the team that I think is gonna win with my gut, and I'm picking the Raiders this week, man. I think the Bills last week had no business winning, and they had that PI call, which I thought was a little bit soft. Ended up winning that game. Coming into this matchup, I think the Raiders are, like I said it a few weeks ago after they beat the Saints, I actually think the Raiders are a really solid team this week. I also think we saw Waller and Josh Jacobs come into this last game a little bit hobbled, and I think they both play a lot better this week. I think their offense, does a pretty good job against that Bills defense, and I think their defense holds up enough to win that game. So I'm taking the Raiders.
It's definitely a must-win for the Raiders, in my opinion, because if they lose here, they drop to 2-2, and the years of mediocrity continue, in my opinion. But I just think the Bills' secondary is too good for the Raiders' offense, and specifically that receiving core, that I'm not threatened by, to be honest. So I have Buffalo winning in a landslide victory here, even on the road.
Wait, can I ask a question? My fault, not to slow down a segment, but is Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards out?
We don't know.
I'm not sure. I don't think either of them are out.
I hate to do this mid-pick, but if they're out, then I'm definitely taking the Bills. But if they're playing, I'm taking the Raiders. I forgot about that.
Brian Edwards, shout out USC. He has been playing. He's kind of emerged as as like the Tyrell Williams, or what the Tyrell Williams was supposed to look like, a possession-oriented receiver, which kind of allows Henry Ruggs to get out deep. But I think they look too short. They didn't get Ruggs involved in the last game. I think that's a big problem. So we'll see what they do this time. But moving on, so we got 2 more matchups here. The Sunday night game is Philadelphia Eagles 0-2-1 playing in San Francisco against the 49ers. Do we see a 49er landslide victory? We have to even talk about this.
I mean, we don't know who's going to be healthy for the 49ers. We don't know who's going to be out there. So that's
still going to kick their ass.
But go ahead, Marty.
Well, I think I said it with my hot take earlier. I think if Jimmy G's out and Nick Mullins is in, Nick Mullins is going to have a field day. I think if Kittle comes back, Kittle's healthy. Jordan Reed's obviously out. What a surprise, Evan. I think the Philadelphia Eagles they can't get on the same page. I think the 49ers are going to take it home.
Yeah, I think the 49ers could have hired people off the street to beat the Eagles to replace the guys they lost. And my bold prediction is Carson Wentz gets benched at halftime and the 49ers win.
Ooh. I think the Eagles win this game. I think the Eagles are going to come out and win this game.
Wow.
Quote me here. Especially if the 49ers come in as hobbled as they've been. They've lost their 2 best defensive linemen for the entire season. The Eagles, they need to win. I think I'm not like the biggest Wentz fan ever, but I think he's better than people are giving him credit for. I think he's ready to go out there and just shut some people up because I'm tired of this like bench him and start Jalen Hurts. He hasn't been great, but we're talking about a guy that literally was an MVP caliber player before he got hurt. I think that they win this game. Even though they're hurt, I think the Eagles win this game.
So I think you're underappreciating how bad he's been this year, though. I'm not saying that's a reason to disagree with your pick, but I'm just saying you said that you think people are giving him 200.
He's been the ball to you, me, Zach, and Marty. So let's not forget about that. With the exception of Ertz and Goddard just got hurt, he hasn't had a damn receiver this entire season. Like every single one has been hurt, and then they come back and they get hurt again. So I actually blame Doug Peterson more than I do Carson Wentz, but that's the way I look at it.
Sai, if he was throwing to me, I'd have 300 yards after 3 games and probably 4 touchdowns. So, let's back that up a little bit. But, I got the 49ers in a landslide victory here. The Monday night game, though, 0-3 Atlanta playing in Green Bay against 3-0. You guys getting this final matchup here. Green Bay is favored 7.5.
Well, I mean, geez Louise, as much as we've talked up the Green Bay Packers, there's no way I can pick against them right now, especially with, the way the Falcons are looking, coaches on the hot seat. Todd Gurley, man. Todd Gurley's not Todd Gurley anymore. Brian Hill's going to take away from him, I think. I think they're going to keep throwing the ball, and I think that Green Bay defense is going to do what they need to do, but I think Aaron Rodgers gets it done.
Yeah, we got Packers big. I'm done picking the Falcons after I picked them to beat the Bears last week. Zach, no more. Packers.
I don't know if Julio is going to be healthy or not. I think this game could be closer than we're giving it credit for if Julio is healthy, but I don't know if Devontae Adams is healthy, but I'm going to pick the Packers by a touchdown. I actually don't think this is going to be like some blowout. I think they'll stay in it, but I think the Packers will win.
Yeah, I've got Atlanta sneaking out a quick victory here. I think they're actually losing. I'm serious. I think it's the vice versa effect. I think the previous 2 games we were up by a large margin. We lost in the last seconds. I think it's the opposite. I think we're down this entire game. I think we come back and sneak out a field goal and beat Green Bay and kind of level them off a little bit. So we'll see, and I definitely think Julio's still listed as questionable, but if he does go, I think he waxes Jair Alexander because there is some negative news right now in Atlanta, right? Coaching issue, like Marty mentioned. I also heard that Julio might be on the trading block come these next couple weeks here. So, lots of pandemonium in Atlanta, and I think they get a win for that organization.
And Zach, before we move on, I just want to do one more thing back to the Eagles 49ers. If that's okay.
Sure.
Go for it.
Just wanted to say that I think Zach Ertz finishes number 1 in tight end scoring this week.
I mean, I would definitely agree with that. He's the only person to throw the football to on that offense, so I'm with you there.
I love it. Well, I guess we kind of went a bit long. Apologies for that. I think that's all we got. Should we give Marty the last word? We usually give the guests like the last minute of the pod. Anything you want to mention from just shoot from the hip.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with thanks for having me on. And, I pretty much said everything I needed to say as far as, my takes and everything like that. But one thing I want to mention is MLB. We didn't really talk a lot about it, but I did want to say one thing, and everybody's going to hate me for this as I'm leaving, but I think the Astros are going to win the World Series this year.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, I like that.
No.
You know what, Marty? I like you coming out here and saying what nobody wants to say. That's bold.
They look good, man. They look good, even with all the turmoil.
That's like the perfect thing to sign off on, right? Like you just mention it, and you're like, all right, I'm out. You click out.
All right,
I did, yeah. I love the baseball shout out until you said that, but yeah, thanks for coming on, Marty. Good to have you. That was Mondays Down South. See y'all next week.
All right.
They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.